Welcome back to the channel, Dirt Cleaner Videos. I've got another exciting yet sad video for you. I'm working out in the lapidary shop, Superior Lapidary, and I've got a little work to do. I'll show you what's going on here. Alright, we got the 18-inch HP, the old plexiglass top. Well, the poor thing is up on blocks. It's got a little problem. The reason why it's up on blocks is to fix the problem. It was time to clean the oil again. I just did it, probably made 30 cuts. But since I'm stopping to do some repairs, it's time to filter the oil. You can never do that too many times. So I'll show you what's up. I've been doing a whole bunch of little cuts, just little teeny cuts, just making some preforms for some spheres. And then I thought, well, got to do a little bigger one. So I stuck the big rock in here, set it. It was cutting away just fine. And as many of you have found in the past, it just stopped feeding forward. Common problem, you hate for it to ever happen, but it probably will if you cut a lot of rock, and I've cut a lot of rock. So take the old 18-inch HP, and here's my simple diagnosis for the problem. I just gave the carriage a little tug. Oh, you see how it slips? Well, we got a little better light. It's not perfect. Let's see if we can get it more direct. So right at the base down here, right there is the split nut. So as you press down on the lever, it opens up the nut, allows it to slide. When you bring the lever up, the nut clamps onto this threaded shaft that goes from front to back. Gears in the front that drives it off a pulley. I'll show you that. Gearing is in the front. It's driven off of a pulley, which comes off of a pulley in the back. So what we're assuming is happening here is this nut is wore out. At one time you could buy whole replacement pieces. What Highland Park has done is created a piece that you can replace the actual nut inside the jaw. So we got to look online and just see what it takes to order those pieces. So as you can see, I'll show you one more time. You push down the lever, opens up a nut so that it can slide on the threads. Lever goes up, nut closes. Now this threaded rod, which is turning all the time, can drive it forward. When that nut wears out and it's brass out and it hits a hard, you try to go through hard rock, and it just starts slipping. That happens, that's life. So I'm going to see what Highland Park has got for this older saw. This is a square rail saw. Look at here, these are your rails. There's also a round rail where there's round rails on either side, but this is a square rail. So if you're looking for parts, it's a square rail. It's an 18-inch saw, so you can look for that. They might need to know the length of the shaft if you end up wearing out your shaft. And honestly, this could be wore a little bit, but I'm just going to go with this and see what happens. The advantage to the new one is the split nut is replaceable right where it's at. You don't have to take everything apart and bring it out. You can replace this nut. It's an insert basically instead of a whole unit. So that's a super thing they did. We're going to check and see what it takes to get it, how much it costs. We'll see how long it takes to deliver and how difficult it is to put in. And then you'll hopefully see this 18-inch saw working again.
All right, we're going to try and order a couple of parts from hplapidary.com. If you want to sign in or sign out, hit your little key button here. I've already done that. I am signed in. Here is your shopping cart. Let's scroll a little bit. I want to go down to replacement parts. Under replacement parts, I have a square rail saw. So that's what I'm going to pick on, square rail saw. They also have Frantom and Lortone parts too, which is pretty cool. My particular saw is an 18-inch saw. Now you're going to see the picture is a little different. This is a more modern saw than mine, but that's the picture they chose. So I click on the 18-inch. Here's your list of available parts. I need power feed parts. So when I look at this, here is the Highland Park split nut for the 18 and 20. It's $145. Currently, these are 2019 prices. So I add that to the cart, continue shopping. There's a spring in the bottom. I didn't really point that out on the video, but I'll show that to you before we get through this. I'm going to add that to the cart. Why not get a spring? We're going to continue shopping. There's two other parts I think I really need. And these are the bushings for the front and rear of the drive shaft. So I'm going to add to cart. Since I'm in the saw, it's a great time, and we'll continue shopping. It's a great time to add those. So there, we'll add to cart. Let's go to view your basket. There's 4 parts, comes to $171.65. Those bushings, $6.20 a piece, $14.25 for a spring. You know, are they worth that? Probably. They might be able to find them a little cheaper elsewhere, go to a bearing shop, but the dollar you're going to save is not worth it. As long as they fit and they do their job, that's what it is. So from there, the shipping is free, and orders over $50 are free, or if you buy a tool from them, it's free shipping. So they've got that figured out. It's factored into the price, of course. I get that. Hit the checkout. I've already done this. I've ordered the parts. I received, I think, one email confirmation that I purchased the parts, and then later on I got an email that they were delivered. So that is as simple as it is to order the parts. Now we're going to go on and check out the package and see what they sent to make sure everything's in there.
All right, it's time to unpackage this bad boy and see what they sent, see if everything came as expected. All right, we got the 2 different bushings. See, one's got a lip on it, one doesn't. Got the spring. That could be part of the problem with the saw too. Maybe my old spring is wore out. All right, I've got this banded together to make sure you get the left and right parts. So you'll see this again, but here's how the split nut works. Goes around the threaded shaft, and when it's tight, it'll drive forward. When you open it up, that's how you can slide this back and forth. So if these gears wear out, you're done. Actually, this is the side you're going to see. So what Highland Park has done now, previously this was all one unit. Now the split nut can be taken out with these 3 screws. There's no nuts on it or anything. It's just 3 screws. So if this wears out, again, with 6 screws, I could take this out, insert the new one, no taking the saw apart. It's a pretty ingenious idea. So they sent this quickly. It was about a week. I don't know exactly how long from order to when it arrived, but it was about a week. So yeah, I'll give it to them on shipping this time. They passed the test. All right, well, we've got the parts out in the shop. I'm back at the saw. I've still got it tilted up. Hopefully it'll help you see in there a little bit. It doesn't need to be on the jag stands anymore, but maybe it helps a little bit with what we're going to see. Before I jump into replacing this, there's one thing I need to check, and that's the front and rear bushings of this saw. I got to see if they're loose, if they're wore out. I bought them, didn't even check them. I checked out a YouTube video that the HP Lapidary guys put together. John and Sherman Rowland, I know those guys, they're pretty decent folks. But anyway, they had a good YouTube video on doing that, just how to check these front bushings and how to replace them. So I'm going to show you what I learned. Okay, I hope you can see this well. I got a bunch of lights set up here. It's a dark little saw. So there's a bushing in the front of this shaft, and there's one in the rear. The front one looks like, maybe call it a thrust bushing. The front bushing has got a little lip on it. The back one does not. The back one is just a straight bushing. We'll unpackage them in a few minutes. To check that, loosen up the carriage so it's free flowing. In fact, with the tilt, it's kind of a pain. Then just grab it, shake it up and down. You can see it moves up and down a little bit. Now let's see if it goes back and forth quite a bit. So that could still be part of the problem that I'm experiencing with this thing not working quite right. So hopefully I can replace these bushings. I got to take the cover plate off, that's over here, and get this shaft out. So there is, I don't know how to get it to the top, but there is a Allen screw supposedly on here somewhere. So I got to figure out how to spin that. Okay, I just looked around a little bit. The easiest way to get that Allen screw on top is just to pull it on the belt, watch your fingers, make sure your saw is not plugged in. I don't know what the gear ratio is exactly, but that does spin it. It's hard to perceive, but that the shaft is turning. It's another part of the problem of diagnosing these types of problems. You can't really hear what's going on. This thing moves so slowly. Do not get your fingers pinched in there. That will hurt. Another thing I could do is I could just plug it in and turn the saw on. The blade's not cutting anything. I'm not going to throw any oil. I could watch this with the door open. Oop, pulley came off. That's all. Actually, that's much faster. I can spin this. Actually, the belt came off of the pulley. The pulley is still intact. All right. Well, it must have been close to the other side. It finally showed up. Clean this up a little bit. It's a pretty small Allen wrench. I don't know if that's an 1/8 inch or so. I'm going to get my wrenches. We're going to come back and check that out. But yeah, take the belt off. This thing spins pretty quick. All right, before I try to put an Allen wrench in there and see what size it is, I don't know how much of a trick this is, but that is full of stuff. Watch out with compressed air. Don't hurt yourself. There, that's cleared out. Now I'm not going to be jamming junk in there. All right, that broke loose. That's exciting. I didn't want to goof that up. Now I've got to take the front cover off. Let's do that next. All right, this originally came with screws on it, and I had this apart some time ago. One of the screws got lost. I put bolts in. It really doesn't make a big difference. Don't over torque these. This thing will probably be a little bit difficult to get off because it is silicone in each side of a gasket. I made the gasket. You could just put a simple bead of silicone on, either way. Although they do make replacement parts, so you really want to keep your original. It's got a nice identification plate on the front, which is pretty cool. Oh yeah, there is oil under here. Some gear loops, I've got to catch that. Every bucket I've got has got rocks in it, slabs and pieces. Love buckets in this business. So, like the boys say on the video, do not pry on these tabs. You're liable to break these tabs off. There's 2 tabs on here. I'm just going to pry a little bit in here. A little steady pressure. Oh, that's coming off. Got some 90 weight gear lube I put in there. So now what they did tell me in the video is what keeps this in. They just simply took it out, showed it. Kind of assume it just slides out now that this front keeper is off of there. Well, it's still kind of snug on there. I think it looks like it's on there pretty good. I'm going to loosen this up a little more. I'm sure it's not stuck on there. No, that thing is out. So what's happening, this is just stuck on the shaft. I'm going to try gently with the screwdriver to get this off. Certainly don't want to break it. I'm sure it's a part I can replace somehow. But yeah, that thing is... Oh, just lost the a little bitty set screw. That's tiny, don't lose that. I'm going to get a wider tip screwdriver, see if I can get a little force on there. It's a little bigger screwdriver, hopefully this will do what I need. This has been on here, who knows, maybe since it was new. I may not want to move. Spin it a little bit, try a different spot. Okay, move a little bit. If it moved a little bit, it's going to keep moving, I think. Pop it loose. Alright, that's loose. Alright, there's that little keeper. Here's the shaft. The other bushing goes on this end, the rear bushing. There it is. And there is definitely some wear there. You know, it is what it is. So what I'm going to do, I'm going to replace the bushings, front and rear, and see what happens. I have to get a socket, knock that front bushing out. That can live there. This I'm just going to leave here. Okay, we've encountered one issue. Now, according to the HP Lapidary video, you grab a socket just a bit smaller than the hole, but it's got to be big enough to hit the bushing. Unfortunately, the hole in this old saw is the exact same size as the bushing. So if you get something to fit in there, I'll demonstrate, it's exactly the same size. There's nothing really to hit there. I do see a little bit of a lip, so I'm going to try and hit that lip. Sorry about the shadows. See what I can do about that. So there's a lip. I can just see the edge of the bushing. Hopefully it comes out. Sure, it's going to take a lot of persuasion. I'm just kind of testing it here. I hope I don't goof this up. This could be a long process if I make a mistake here. All right, nothing's moved yet. Let's get a look at the inside. Okay, right there is this bushing. I'm going to hit it from the back side and try and drive it forward. I hit it pretty good. I'm sure I can hit it harder than that. But once you start these projects, you gotta finish them. You saw this end. I just knocked this bushing out simply by striking the other end, but look at the condition of this thing. That thing is wore out. Looks like I was hitting it here, may have cracked it. Yep, cracked it right there. Perfect. All right, I'm going to go get a rag. We're going to clean that hole out. We're going to try and install the new bushing. That's our next order of business. We're just going to lightly start this. Please be the same size. I never measured it against the other one, but I think it's okay. Feels like it sits there okay. You got to get your fingers behind it. Yeah. It's not really starting yet. No, I may have to clean that that hole up a little bit. Nope, not doing nothing. Alright, I'm going to try to find a way to clean that hole up, maybe run a drill or some emery cloth or something in there. One time I get stuck trying to fix something I haven't done before exactly, I always got to think, hey, what will Pa do? He would fix it pretty quick. Of all things, I don't have a round file, I got a square file. But we're just hitting that edge anyway, I got a little angle on there. Got to get it enough so that bushing starts, because she'll go in once it starts. If there's a burr or something on there, okay, that's it. It's a little crooked. I think that's all the further I'm going to take it with the hammer. That is enough of that. Now let's see if I got the right size bolt or not. Oh, barely. I'm going to give her a couple more taps. I don't have any threads showing. On the other side of this bolt, I'm putting a washer and a nut. I'm sure you can imagine what that looks like. Okay, the bushing appears to be in all the way. Take the bolt off. Thanks, Mr. Rowland. That trick worked great. Might be able to use that on the back side. Okay, front bushing is in. Let's see. I'm going to see if this shaft goes through there. So I'm just sticking it through from the other side, as it's supposed to be. It does not feel like it wants to go at all. So, now you can see it sticks out a little bit here. But this is a step shaft here, and this part is bumping up right there. So that's the next thing I got to do, is I got to get that in there and get that going. All right, we're back to getting the shaft ready to go through that bushing. So I went to my drill bit selection. I had a drill. I'll show you on the end of it. And take that, get it on there. I will check the shaft. So it feels pretty good. So I'm pretty confident I can go with this. I'm not going to destroy anything with that drill bit. So that's next up. We're going to run the drill through there. It's kind of odd you have to do that, but it was not going to go in without doing this. Pull it back out. I think that's all I want to do with that before we try it. So the drill went through. Now let's see what the shaft does. I can feel it starting. I'm just going to bump it with my hand a little bit. Oh yeah, just bumping it with my hand. It's starting to go through. I'm hitting it right on the gear on the far end. Okay. That's going to work. They had another little trick on their website. So their recommendation was just to take and hit the shaft a little bit. So I hit it a couple directions. not too hard, maybe up once. Alright, so before we go too far, I've got to get the this little keeper back on. That goes right on there. Before I get this in too far though, oh yeah, she's going easier now after I tapped it with the hammer. That made a big difference. That's kind of a neat trick. Now we got to work on the jaws, I think, and then the rear bushing. Kind of do it the order that the shaft slides in there. So now I got the front bushing replaced. Now we got to move and replace the split nut. Well, I think we got it plenty bright in there. There you can see the split nut again, right there. There's also a spring down low. I wonder if I should try to get that off before I go much further here. Well, they showed me it's pretty easy to take that off. I've got to get it a little closer to the machine. I've got to move the light a little. It's kind of a pain. There we go. It comes off pretty easy. That might be kind of a problem too. That spring might have been a little weak. That bushing was bad. The jaws might be a little bad. The combination thereof is probably the problem I'm having with this thing stopping that forward movement. This particular bolt was a little bit loose. I can't see it, but it feels like a square drive. Need more tools. You always need more tools. Since it is a square drive, I believe, or square headed, I'm just going to use a adjustable wrench on there. It seems to be my best bet. Probably don't have to take this off, but let's take it off anyway. Yeah, it was a square nut. Put that up on top. So I don't lose it, we're going to place that nut back on top of here. And there's the arm. Yeah, clean that off. We'll get a good look at this after. See just what there is. This side piece you can replace too. So if I still need to, that shouldn't be any trouble. I think I can get that out pretty easy. So that spring on the bottom is actually off. That's loose. I put the wrench on here earlier. It was just a little bit loose, so I don't know. That could be a problem too. And these are threaded right into the piece itself. There's no nuts on these. So you certainly don't want to over torque them when you put them on. You don't want to strip anything. This one's coming out a little tougher than the other, but it doesn't really matter. Alright, there's the original split nut. Put it together correctly. Alright, once again I'm caught in a position wondering, how do I get a bushing out there? The hole does not go through to the other side. I could unbolt everything and maybe you could hammer it out, but I'd like to keep the rails and the carriage in place. So I was thinking, what would Dad do? Dad, he's done a lot of things over the years, and if I remember back to the days on the farm, the implement business growing up, he would drill out the bushing. So first thing I did, I took the replacement bushing and I tried it on the end of the shaft. It fits on there. It's actually a little bit sloppy, not too bad though. And then I found a drill that was just a bit oversized in the hole. I'm going to probably drill it in a series of steps, and then I'll hammer the bushing out and hope to gosh that the new one goes back in. It's not quite as fun working up there as it is in front of the saw, but I think it's going to work fine, so God, I hope it does. Let's see here. Actually, that drill fit right in there, so that's how much that bushing is wore. It didn't even come close to fitting in the other one. All right, we'll step it up a little bit. Actually, we'll step it up quite a bit. What I don't want is to get too far off center from this. Hey, there it pulled out. Where'd it go? There's not a lot left of this bushing. Let me get it in the light. Yeah, that thing just chewed right out of there. So I've got to clean the hole out, and now we got to try and install the other one. We don't want to leave any brass chunks in there. Yeah, I'm not sure what to do now. This bushing is definitely the wrong size. I'm going to go back in the online catalog, take a look, because that is not going to fit inside that hole there. It's way too fat. So here's where I'm at. I took that little bushing out of there, and it's obviously a different outside diameter than the new one. But after further review and a little cleaning, what I think happened, that bushing wore out some many years ago, and somebody just drilled it out and put in a little sleeve bushing, just a smaller bushing, to get it back to its factory size without replacing the whole bushing. Because I still see brass around there. So what I've got to do is see if I can get that out. Oh, I hate doing this, but there's actually a little lip on there. I don't know if this is going to work. No, I'm going to have to go back to the drill. My original plan. Yeah, we're still pulling a lot of brass out of there. So I think that's what's going on. Somebody has done some work in here already. I've got different size drill bits. I'm going to be changing them. I'm just kind of hitting her a little at a time. I'm using a drip punch. I should have a chisel. I can go get one if I need one. We'll try this once. Well, I got a few different chisels I brought back. Hey, this is real world repair. This is what really happens out there. I'm not sure if I can do anything from the other side or not, but we're going to give it a shot. I'm sadly disappointed. Without belaboring this cause too long, I got to go deeper into the saw and take this whole rail apart. I was hoping not to, because it did seem to cut fairly straight, but I got to get that bushing out, and I can't do it where it's at. So now I got to figure out just what it's going to take to disassemble the back rails of this 18-inch Highland Park square rail saw. I think those are adjustments on top. I'm not entirely sure. Right up here, there's an adjustment. We got some bolts here. There's one on either end. Those certainly have to come off. One of them holds that nice little splash guard. So maybe I'll start with those 3 bolts. And those are nuts and bolts. They're bolts through the back. You know, you do something like this, you hope you're not doing the wrong thing, but if you are, you are. That's life. I'm not going to fret this. Okay. There's the guard, and I was kind of wondering about that. Yep, it's double nutted. There's a nut for the piece and a nut for the guard. All right, there's the 3 bolts. The one closest to the blade was longer than the others. That held on the blade guard. Now, let's see if this taps off. I don't know what's going to happen. Well, that's moving, but I think it's attached yet to those square rails. I think we'll take off this extension. Oh, I hate taking this thing out of alignment. That kind of upsets me. Yeah, that looks better. Sorry about getting in the way of the camera, but yeah, I just have to. At least now you can see what size of nut it's got. All right, so there's the nut and the bolt that takes off the one side of the square rail. All right, that loosens it. So that back will come off. Okay. Here we have the other nut and bolt. There's the back of that piece. You can see right through there. So hoping now I can get that bushing out and get it replaced properly. I can't even shut the camera off. My hands are too dirty. So that's what I'm going to work on next. I'm going to shut the camera off. I'm going to clean this up. And then we'll get it on that bushing. Well, I got this tailpiece on. Sorry, I don't know what to call it. I've got a socket here that's bigger than the inside one. Actually, let's show this. So somebody did put a bushing in a bushing. So this was fixed at one time in the past. Good work. Hey, more power to you. That's ingenious thinking. They didn't go through all the work of taking this off and getting the correct bushing, but they made it work. I love it. Wish I'd have done something so simple. But I had a bushing in my hand, and that's the one I'm going to use. Let's see if this one pops out. Almost. Okay, so there is the 2-piece bushing. Man, they did a great job. There's the new bushing. Actually, it's not going to need any work at all. She'll tap right in. This back has to be flush. That can't protrude at all because that would wreck some geometry or something somewhere. Let me ball peen and just a bit. Okay, well there. It's that simple. The new bushing is installed. Now let's see if it fits. Took about 5 minutes just to clean this thing up good enough so that when it goes together, it'll be straight. I cleaned up the back of the saw. Now let's go put that together. All right, we're ready to reassemble. I did one more thing off camera. This bushing, the back of it, I pounded in a little further so it was near flush with the front. I don't know, right, wrong, or otherwise, but I figured I can always tap it that way easier than I can bring it back that way. So now I just have to reassemble this with the 3 bolts and then the 2 bolts on top. The longest bolt, of course, being the very far one. A little bit. Might get in the way here, but all I'm doing is lifting the rail up to see if I can get that piece in. Just going to stick my finger on the hole, and I can tell on the back side where it's just about right. camera again. Second time I dropped it into a saw. Alright, she's out of the way now. I'm going to try and get that third bolt in. Try an old trick and just try threading it in and see what happens. Now, I got to be careful with this. I don't want to break anything, but we're going to try a little persuasion. All right, we're closer than we were. No, that went right in. Don't worry about that one in a minute. There really is no adjustment on the rear of this saw for these rails, so they sit where they sit. There might be some adjustment at the front, or if there's some adjustment, please tell me about it. I'd like to know, but I just don't see it offhand. All right, those are tight. Now I can snug these back ones up. Next, we got this slimy piece. Got the slimy lock washer, followed by the slimy bolt. All right, I got to wash my hands a little bit, and then we'll be back, and we'll work on getting a shaft through. Okay, I've cleaned up ever so little bit. Now I'm going to slide this shaft through. Yep, doesn't look like it wants to come anywhere near there. So there's a chance this front bushing is off a little. There we go. That seems to be fine. Okay, so I'll show you where I'm at now. Now I've got to get this right back to here. Now I don't feel a flat spot on here. Oh boy, now when I pull up and down on this, there's virtually no movement. That's pretty nice. Just going to tap this back a little bit. Now one thing I would assume, when I'm lining up this gear, I would want it to be straight vertical. And not off to the side. That's pretty much all the way in. And then I'm going to try moving that pulley. Seems to move without any real trouble. You can see this gear is going around ever so slowly. That means the shaft is moving ever so slowly. I have to get some lube on those bearings. Okay, so I think we're good there. I've got to tighten up this bushing. I just got to spin this till that Allen bolt hole gets near the top. I think I'll place it on there already. So now it's on there, ready to go. It's going in nice and clean, so I'm thinking no grit got in there. Now this is kind of the part I'm not sure just how tight I want that. Because you don't want that sliding either, because that could certainly stop you. I'd assume from listening to Roland's video on HP Lapidary that there's a flat spot on this shaft on the new saws. On this old saw, there is not a flat spot. I could have actually just machined one on there with a grinder, and that would work fine. But, yeah, there isn't one. So maybe I'll loosen and tighten this one more time just to see if it sets in. A couple times. There. Okay, that part seems to be fine. Now, the original problem that I had, I still have to attend to. Let's see here. And that's to put these on and then hopefully square them up. I'm going to start by putting the bolt in. Get it lined up. Screw it in by hand as far as it seems to go. That's as far as that one goes. I'll grab the bolt from the other side and the washer. Place that in there, and again I'll screw this in as far as it wants to go by hand. I'm going to take a little better look at this. We'll clean that off. Okay, well that's something I can replace later, and I think I will. So one side is worn. Maybe I can even spin this a little bit. That's a possibility. I'm going to run this into the vise, see if I can spin this a little bit, get some more life out of it. Well, right, wrong, or otherwise, that's what I did. I just spun this thing, so now the flat side's here, and it's round again on these sides. It actually is kind of cam-shaped. So I don't know what that's about. But we'll put her back together and see if it works. Still may end up buying another piece. And I don't know what they call it, but I know it's in their catalog, on their online catalog. This goes together with a a slot-headed bolt with a square nut. Alright, bolt goes through, slot-headed bolt, and it goes through that, and somehow, there. Now I just got to reach around and get this flat-headed nut started. Well, the parts are on, right or wrong. Now we've got the new spring, and it's going to hook. I better bring this closer. Looks like a place I can reach better. There's just a little eye bolt that hooks on, a little bolt. Okay, this is officially together. Okay, well, yeah, it loosens up. Everything but the front cover is back in place. It snaps into place. Not sure if it's perfect or not yet, but it seems to be working. Well, there it is. That is simply how you replace the split nut and the front and rear bushings on a Highland Park 18-inch slab saw. This thing is awesome. It's an old saw. I love it. The guys running the Highland Park lapidary today, HP Lapidary, they're doing a great job manufacturing a lot of parts that guys like us need. I can't give them enough credit for that. So many other companies are going to say, forget you, that model's obsolete, we're making everything just a hair different. These guys went the opposite way. Yeah, so I support them. I support their parts. We still have to give this the college try here, and I got to put the blade back on and do a couple other things. So I will do that before I finish up this video. But if you saw what you need to now, just go ahead and quit watching. Otherwise, make sure you like, share, subscribe. I probably have a button up here or over there, I don't know wherever it ends up. Comment on this, good, bad, or otherwise. If you have ideas, something I should have done different or better, please bring it up. There's a lot of guys like me who want to know what to do. I've never done this before. I'm glad I jumped into it, got a little dirty. That's not a bad thing, but help us out. Give us some good advice. Good constructive advice is the best. All right, we're going to put the blade back on. You see a little golden shim in there. There are different size arbors, different size shafts. Let's see if that stayed on this time. Yeah. You don't want to crank these blades down too tight. That act can cause them to warp. You want them just firm enough to hold. The direction of the saw helps keep it tight as the saw is spinning. So you don't need a ton of torque on it, but right there, that should suffice. This seems to work. Seems to roll good anyway. You could put a dial gauge on here and see if this part of the rock stays. I'll just use my fingers as a dial gauge. So it just touches. At least up there, it feels pretty good. I know it's not the perfect way to do it. I think these aren't perfectly centered. I've got to work on centering the split nut a little because the right side is just about rubbing, the left side does not. The right side might be a little tight. So you can loosen that up just a hair. We had some pretty bad rainstorms around here, a lot of flooding in the outlying areas in the county. Now there's some thunder happening again. Tighten this right one up just a smidge. Actually, that kind of helped. It's better than it was. I'm going to get this off the jack stands. We're going to put some oil, and maybe tomorrow I'll give it a test. Okay, well, I didn't wait till tomorrow. I got this done tonight. I put oil in there. I got oil just covering the bottom of the blade by about that much. Here's what I've done to wrap it up. I first had this carriage quit driving forward in a little larger rock. It would work fine on little teeny cuts on little rocks, but it wouldn't work on this big rock. Oh, here comes a rainstorm outside. It's coming in. Anyway, it wouldn't work on this big rock. It would quit going forward. So I've done a couple of things. One, I changed the front bushing on the drive shaft and the rear bushing on the drive shaft. The rear bushing, that was kind of interesting. Somebody had actually repaired it once before and put a bushing inside of a bushing. Fine work, I'm glad they did it. It kept the saw going for many years. Now we just put a regular full-size bushing in there. Then I changed out the split nut to the more modern style, so now the actual nut is replaceable with 3 screws on each side instead of taking the whole thing apart. So that should be pretty good. That's about it. Oh, I did put a new spring that tightens that split nut together, so it can drive forward on that. What else? Yeah, that's about it. Cleaned it up, put some fresh oil in here. I haven't done it yet. I have not tried it. This is going to be the test. I got the rock set back a little bit. There's already a little groove in here, and I mated it up so it's going to hit that groove again, but that's perfect. I want to give it a try. That's it, she's cutting away. So there you are. Once again, HP Lapidary helped out Superior Lapidary. I got my old antique 18-inch Highland Park saw going again, I hope. I won't upload this until I get this cut a couple of times. make sure everything's kosher. If it's not, we're going to come back and investigate it. If you don't hear from me again, that's it. Remember, like, subscribe, share this. If you want more of these, let me know. I'm going to do some more. I've got a brand pound to work on. So anyway, there we are. Start Cleaner videos, Superior Lab area. Keep cutting.